These are the reasons why you shouldn't think this can't happen to me. My name is Matt Rosenthal. I'm the CEO of Mindcore Technologies, and I want to share a story with you about a cybersecurity breach that happened recently to a major software provider that provides software to car dealerships. But before I tell you about that, I want to tell you a story about a client of mine who I actually had a phone call with yesterday. And it's interesting because the phone call was a follow-up to a cybersecurity breach they had. They have an email account, it's an Office 365, and we got an alert, or it might have been a report that somebody thought that their email box had a breach. And as we're exploring it and we're looking into it, we noticed, oh wow, well, first of all, they did have a breach. Somebody actually did get into their email box. We changed the password, we contained it, there was no damage, and now they're fortunate. They're fortunate that there was no damage. A lot of other cases, there could have been a major impact to the business. And when I get to, in a minute or two, telling you about this software that was impacted with car dealerships, you'll see what I mean by what could have happened. But again, getting back to the very beginning where I said, don't think this won't happen to you. This company I'm telling you about, they thought it would never happen to them. And the first thing that they said to us is, how come you guys didn't tell us to put certain things in place? And I said, geez, I actually wondered, did we not tell them? So I looked back, went through our emails, and it turns out that we've told them several times. And in most cases, all the cases where we did give them guidance, they declined. They didn't want to put anything in place that they should have put in place to lower the risk of a cybersecurity breach. So lo and behold, they have somebody breaks into their email, they didn't have MFA turned on, they didn't have any security in place, and they think that it's our fault, right? So, and I knew better. I know that in our company that we are very on top of making sure that we give the best guidance to all of our clients. So I had a call with them yesterday, and I'm explaining to the person who kind of runs the day-to-day about what they should have in place and why they had a breach. And of course, she has to explain to the owner, and the owner is cost conscious and doesn't believe that he's at risk. So she has to explain to him what I explained to her. Well, here's the deal. As I'm talking with her, and she brings up again, why wasn't MFA in place? Now she's all for it. And so we're actually having a call tomorrow to actually go through with her and the owner of the company what it's going to take to turn on MFA. And just to keep it simple, it's not even going to cost them anything. They already have Office 365. They already have everything they need. We just have to check a box, turn it on, and walk all their users through how to set it up. They're a small business. They have like 20 employees. It's typical small business. They think it's not going to happen to them, and it did. So yes, we're going to solve the MFA, the multi-factor authentication problem for them tomorrow. But there's a bigger issue here, and the bigger issue is the mindset. You are never too small of a business to think that somehow you're exempt from somebody attacking you. There is an attacker out there for every size business. You can have one employee, you can have 50,000 employees. There is somebody out there that is looking to get into your business, and they're looking to take advantage of your emotional and behavioral weaknesses. Well, why am I saying that? Because it's social engineering. That's what happened. Somebody sent an email to somebody in this company. There's a fake email, phishing email. They clicked on a link. By clicking on the link, it gave access to somebody out there in crazy hacker world, and now they're into somebody's mailbox. Okay. Again, thankfully, it was noticed quickly, and we contained it, got it resolved quickly. But why should this happen? Why should it happen? It should never have happened to them. So I'm on the phone with her, and I said to her, look, are you opposed to looking into more than just multi-factor authentication? Like, can we look into really putting a lot of things in place that will reduce the risk of this happening? And she's like, I'm all for it, but I don't know if the owner will be. So I explained to her a few things. Actually, I asked her a question. I said, what would happen if you guys were down for a week, right? And now they supply certain products to a certain industry. I don't want to go into what it is, but they supply people all over the US in a certain type of business. And I said, what would happen if you guys were down for like an entire week? And she gave me a great answer. She goes, well, we don't really have anything internal in our company where we host any data. And I said, well, what do you mean? I know you have Office 365. I know you have Word, PowerPoint, Excel docs. And she's like, yeah, but all of our AP, our AR, and our inventory and our ordering, and that all happens with a third-party product. This is why it ties into the breach that happened with the car dealerships this week, which was major, impacted car dealerships all over the US. So I said to her, well, hang on. You guys have everything in a cloud, in a third party. Has nothing to do with us as your IT company, right? Right, okay. She goes, but we're changing. I'm like, what do you mean you're changing? She goes, oh, we're actually going to a new provider in August. And I go, well, that's awesome, but we should be in that conversation because you want to talk to them about their cybersecurity policies. Like, you're in their cloud, right? She goes, yeah. I said, well, where are they? She goes, I'm not sure. It could be Amazon, it could be Azure. I go, exactly. So there's a lot of questions you need to ask them. So what started out as a thankfully minor cybersecurity, minor email breach, contained, resolved, fine, we're putting MFA in place, turns into another conversation, which is why it's so important for you. If you're a business owner, if you're a decision maker, if you in any way are partially or totally responsible or even care about the cybersecurity in your business, listen to what I am going to say to you now. It will happen to you. It's 100% certainty. You're going to have a breach. This is what I said to her on the phone. I said, now you just had your own breach, nothing happened, but what about the company you're considering moving to as far as your third-party CRM? She's like, oh, I'm sure they're okay. I go, well, how could you be so sure they're okay? She's like, well, they're a big company. So I said, all right, well, let's do this. Tell me the name of the company. So she tells me the name of the company. I look them up online. First thing that comes, I Googled the name of their company and I said, any cybersecurity breaches. First thing that comes up is a whole bunch of websites that are talking about this company's software having all sorts of vulnerabilities. So I showed it to her, shared my screen, and she was like, oh my God. I said, she goes, you're scaring me. I'm like, I'm not trying to scare you. It's actually the opposite. I'm trying to educate you and to inform you that, yeah, we all use third parties. We do, every business uses third-party software for CRMs and different things for your business, but you've got to make sure that you do the due diligence and make sure that that third-party software isn't going to create risk that you don't necessarily need to take on. What do I mean by that? Make sure that they're doing all the right things so that you can at least sleep at night. So I asked her if she did any of that due diligence. She said no. And then of course she's like, well, the owner of the company is really the one in the conversation with them. And I said, look, I know him and I know he wants the best for his business, but we need to talk to him and we need to see if he did that. So again, we have a call tomorrow to go over that. But I did go down a list of a few things with her, which I actually jotted down, which I'm going to share with you. These are things that you must do, and these are just a couple of the things that you must do if you use a third-party software and you want to reduce the risk of that company having a breach and the impact to you. So here are the things that you need to do first and foremost to vet your third-party software provider. Number one, check their security policies. Now, in the case of the example that I'm giving you, sorry about that, don't cut that out, that was kind of cool. Stepped on my mic. So in the case of the third party that the client that I'm talking about, I asked them, I said, have you checked it? They said no. I said, fine, let's go on the website. Went on the company's website, nothing about security, which I was surprised. Usually big software providers have some sort of compliance page on their website where you can get information. They had nothing. You must check to see what security measures they have in place. It is a red flag to me if that third-party software provider isn't being proactive and doesn't have something you could immediately open, download, look at, and read. So yes, I was concerned and I showed her that wasn't there, and so we're concerned together. Now, she is gonna get me on the phone with the owner and with that third-party software provider also, so that on their behalf, so that I can ask them questions and help vet and make sure that this is not gonna be a high-risk solution for them. Number one, check the software company's security policies. Number two, be very specific when you ask them about the backup and restore process. What's the process? How long does it take? What's the impact gonna be to my business while you guys are dealing with your cyber breach? What, if anything, should I expect is gonna happen if you have a breach? Are you gonna call me? Are you gonna email me? Is somebody gonna reach out and say, hey, we were compromised, and just so you know, here's what the potential impact to your business was, okay? Number three, where is your actual data stored, right? So I said to her, where are they storing it? She took a guess. She thought it was Amazon, she thought it was Azure, she's not sure. We're gonna get on the phone, but you gotta know where the data is. Is it gonna make a big difference knowing not gonna make a big difference, but you should at least know where your data is. And in this case, we wanna make sure, for example, if they're in Azure, we know what zone they're in, and we know what will happen if there is a breach. Are they gonna fail over to another zone? Like, what's their business continuity plan for when they have a breach? Because again, it's gonna impact your business. Number 4, which I kind of touched on, research them. Look for the red flags. This is so easy. Just go on Google, type in their business, and look at the first few pages that come up. What's their history been? Is it negative? Is it positive news? Have they had breaches? Have they had ransomware attacks? Like, what is the situation? Okay, number 5, go in with your eyes wide open about the risk. Okay, what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is you do not have control over your own data. Once you're in that third party's cloud, you're relying on them, okay? So the takeaway from this portion of this conversation is, at the very least, take those 5 pieces of advice that I just gave you, think about it. Speak with your IT company. In my case, I work with this firm, I'm their IT company. They didn't think to ask me. And so I'm kind of glad in a way that they had a no impact breach, because it gave me the opportunity to get on the phone with them and to begin to just ask questions. And in the course of that, this topic came up, and thankfully, and this particular person was like, well, I'm so glad this came up. We had no idea. We didn't even think about this. Like, you can't be that person. You can't be that person that doesn't think about it. Or worse yet, you think that somebody in your company who you delegated this to, that they're thinking about it. You gotta take ownership, you gotta be accountable. If you're the owner, if you're a partner in the business, if you're the CEO, a CFO, any C-level, or in any way responsible for the technology and security and IT in your company, and you delegate things out, and no matter how much trust and confidence you have in the people you're delegating it to, you need to see proof. Eyes wide open. Show me. Give me a summary. I don't need a 3-hour dissertation. Give me the bullet points, maybe shoot a Loom video. Show me what we got. Make sure that we're good, okay? How does this tie into what happened with the car dealerships across the country? There's a company called, stay with me, CDK Global, okay? If you've been watching the news, and just to give you an idea, it's June 25th, 2024. If you've been watching the news in the past couple of days, or maybe on watching X, or formerly Twitter, you may have noticed or seen something about a massive cyber breach that impacted like half the car dealerships in the entire country, all throughout the US. And the funny thing is, I'm trying to do a deal for my own car, which is about to have a lease end, and I want to buy it out. Just a better deal. I'm going to buy the car. I'm going to do a trade-in. So I'm working with my assistant. She goes to the car dealership, trying to work this out. It's been a week already, and I'm like, what is taking so long? Why can't we do this deal? She finally turns to me and she's like, there was some cybersecurity breach. They can't do it. This was the day it happened. And I hadn't heard about the news yet. So I'm like, well, okay. And I kind of didn't think much of it. Then as I start seeing the news and I'm reading what's going on, I'm like, oh my God, this is a big breach. CDK Global, let me read this to you. Thousands of car dealers across North America have been forced to revert to pen and paper after a software company they rely on was hit by several cyber attacks. The outage has not only caused delays and inconveniences for customers, but also has raised major concerns about whether sensitive data was compromised. Be a little more specific. So this is one of the car dealerships that happens to be in an article that I found. And here's what the general manager of this car dealership is saying. We're writing everything by pen and paper and by hand, but we can't get into our back-end systems and see what the actual warranty costs are on things or what things are actually going to cost. We can't sell cars. We can't do trade-ins. We're having to tell all of our customers, I'm summarizing, we're having to tell all of our customers to come back. We can't help them. Could you imagine telling your customer that? Because your software went down? Because there was a breach? He goes on to say, and it's just a manual process now that takes a lot longer, especially in service. And then we talk about the sales part of it. He goes, that gets even crazier because that has a lot of compliance components such as credit, your red flags, and all those things that integrate with this software called CDK. The story that I just told you about my client who's going to a third-party software has the same exact risk of what happened to the CDK Global, who now has basically taken 50% of the car dealerships in the US out of business, and it's going on almost a week. Okay, so when you say to yourself, this will never happen to me, I'm not aware of any of the clients that we have, which are hundreds, of a single one of them that doesn't use some third-party software to run their company. I have clients that are in the real estate business, they use third-party. Manufacturing, many third parties. Construction, they all use third-party software for doing bids and submitting. Accounting firms all use third-party software. I have major doctors' offices, they use major third-party software. You can go down the list, there's not a single client that we have that doesn't use some third-party software. And not only that, now that software is getting more advanced, using AI, we use third-party software. So let me tell you about what we do. Okay, we use a major software provider. I am intimately familiar with their cybersecurity policies. We review what they're doing every 6 months. I'm on the phone with them monthly for a client conversation. I'm the client, and we are very much on top of exactly what they're doing, to the degree that we also download and do backups of our own software, of our own data from the cloud to a third-party location that we take control over, and we back that up, right? There's a lot of things you could do, and yes, it does cost me money, several thousand a month to do that. However, I say to myself as a business owner, what is the cost to my business going down? Massive. Every single client we have relies on us for them to operate every single day. Now, if you're in a business where in any way you can't be down and you're using third-party software, which now we know you are because everybody is, you don't want to be this car dealership, that you don't want to be this story. Let me tell you more about what's happening with them. Some of this stuff is just unbelievable. I want to tell you about the financial impact. Okay, this is in the tens of, here we go. So listen to this. The unfortunate part of all this is that the amounts that are being demanded by these cybersecurity criminals is actually increasing as the process goes along. So they didn't just hold them hostage, they're holding them hostage and they're increasing the ransom as they're going along. Goes on to say we're seeing millions, if not tens of millions of dollars of demand. Now, we don't have official numbers on what the group so far has demanded, but we do know, as of right now, it's between 20 and 30 million dollars. This might not be, and he goes on to say lastly, and yes, you know what? This might not be critical infrastructure, but it sure does affect us all. It affects someone that's trying to go out there and get a new vehicle, if their old vehicle broke down, et cetera, et cetera. And so it's unfortunately part of a kind of a bigger mental attack on the United States and our people, okay? If you think that you're too small, it's not true. There's no company too small. If you think that it can't happen to you, it's not true. It will happen to you. And the best thing you can do is take ownership, be accountable, hold those around you accountable, have a business continuity plan, have a business continuity plan in place, have a disaster recovery plan in place, know all your third-party vendors and exactly what their plans are, run through all of this a few times a year, okay? And now it carries into another topic, related, which I talked about with my client yesterday, and I want to share with you. Do you have a cybersecurity liability policy? So what happens when you have a breach? So I asked my client yesterday, well, what did you answer on your cyber policy? Yeah, I don't recall you guys running it by me, because we typically will take, all of our clients come to us with their insurance policies and they ask us to look at them, and we'll tell them if it's answered correctly, and if not, we will answer it correctly for them. Things like backup, disaster recovery, multi-factor authentication, email security monitoring, on and on and on and on. There's usually several pages. We answer that, and then if there's things that they don't have in place, then we give them guidance on what we can do to put it in place. And in most cases, we've already given the guidance. In this case, the client never asked us, and she didn't even know if they had a cyber policy. So again, we're talking with them tomorrow. You probably have a cyber policy. Who answered the questions? Did you answer them correctly? Or did you kind of fudge the truth a little bit and say, yes, we have it, when you sort of do or maybe even don't? The problem is when you have a breach and you go to file for a claim, for example, just that business continuity where they'll pay you money to keep cash flowing while you're dealing with a breach, possibly get reimbursed for damages. If you don't have an accurate cyber policy and you didn't answer the questions correctly, they're gonna know that in 2 seconds, right? So don't overlook that. Like, it's important that you have a cyber policy in place, that you answer things correctly, and that you realize, look, this is a cost of doing business now. For years and years and years, people that I speak to didn't want to take the step to actually put cybersecurity measures in place. Then they start having things like compliance, especially if you're in accounting or if you're a third-party administrator or you're in some business that has compliance, doctor's offices. Now states are putting things in place where you have to be compliant. Okay, and now the occurrences of these phishing scams, people getting hacked, it's every single day. Okay, it is going to happen to you. Make sure your policy is in place. Make sure your policy is correct. Make sure that you have somebody that you know, like, and trust that actually answered the questions correctly. Maybe ask for a second opinion, and then revisit it on a regular basis. Because when you have that breach, yes, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to need to basically react, respond, remediate. You want to contain it. But once it's contained and you assess the damage, is there enough damage that it's impacting your business? And if yes, are you going to have to notify your insurance company? And are you going to have to notify your clients? Let's say you're an accounting firm. I can tell you for sure, in most states legally, if you have a breach and their data may have been compromised, you're legally required to notify all of your clients. I had this happen to one of my clients 3 years ago. He almost went out of business. Here's another little story for you. This particular gentleman, actually is a good friend of mine. I had been giving him advice for years. He did not want to invest some money, just to put it in perspective, which was about $1,500 a month. Did nothing, had a breach. All of his clients' data was exposed. In fact, the people who breached him and got that data, he had no idea they had it. They were filing fake tax returns with a fake address, and those tax refunds were going to that address. It was a pretty crazy scam they were running. He found out because his clients were telling him, like, hey, what's going on here? Either I forget how they were getting notified, but he actually discovered when he went to file their returns himself that they were already filed. That's crazy, right? That's wild. So what happens after the fact? Okay, we get in there, we contain it, we figured out that somebody clicked on a phishing email months earlier. He had no systems in place, and don't think your antivirus, like if you have Sentinel-1 or something, don't think that that's going to pick up on this, because it's not a virus. Okay, you need a variety of special tools that don't really cost all that much money in place, and he didn't have them in place. So after the fact, we contain it, get everything under control. He's pulling his hair out. Well, he couldn't pull his hair out because he's bald. He looks like me, but he was like going nuts. Like, how did we miss this? And I'm like, listen, I would love to tell you that everything was in place, but not to pour salt on a wound, but you didn't want to put anything in place. Now we got to do it. So he did it, but not before he had to send an email out to every single one of his clients telling them what happened. It almost put him out of business. Why would you let that happen? You can completely prevent that. So he's just another example of something we see all the time. And now he's fine. He has everything in place. In fact, he just did a merger with another accounting firm. And the firm that he merged into, of course, another small business. Gentleman had been in business for decades, didn't think it would happen to him, nothing in place. So, of course, my client knows better. One of the first things he did with his due diligence was like, look, you're gonna have to put some money aside. We have to budget for this because we need to have cybersecurity preventative measures in place, and we really have to protect this business. So I'm glad he learned, and I'm glad he actually was able to take that, move it forward, and impart that into a part of a due diligence for a deal he was doing. But again, this is something you can't overlook. Let me give you some more facts about this breach with this car dealership. I already told you it impacted about 50% of the car dealerships in the US. Thousands of car dealerships in the US and Canada. And here's the best part. It wasn't just one attack, it was a back-to-back. So they knocked them down, and when they were down, they hit them even harder, because that's what they do. Stand by. Okay, I already told you about this. Prospective buyers are facing delays. Dealerships are doing everything by hand, and they can't order cars. This has been a week already. Now, my big question about this is, this company, CDK Global, why aren't they able to get back up? What's wrong with their backups? It's one thing if everything that they had was encrypted and their systems were down. But why is it, if they were doing the right thing to begin with, that so far it's been a week, and they can't restore from backups? Were their backups also hijacked? Were the backups also encrypted? Were they not taking their backups and moving them to a segregated, separate network, maybe even off-site? Did they not have I mean, this is a major company, right? This is concerning. You should be concerned if you're not asking your CRM, your third-party software, these questions. So how this business is still down it's astonishing. And the last piece of this is every customer experience has been impacted. So if you've gone to any car dealership in the past week, you'll know what I'm talking about. You could want to buy a car, they won't let you. So let me bring this to a conclusion. I shared with you a few stories about clients of mine. I've shared with you a major story about a major software provider for car dealerships. I'm doing this, I'm recording this video for one reason: to impart to you the importance of not thinking it won't happen to you, to elevate your thinking to be next level, to think about your business, your employees, your clients, your future, what would happen to you if you didn't have all the right cybersecurity measures in place, if you didn't have a restore and response plan in place. If this happens, I see this all the time. If you're using an outsourced IT company who says, yes, we know cybersecurity, and they're not cyber experts, with an actual chief information security officer, a CISO, if you aren't sure that that's what you have, if you have a third-party provider like that and you're not even sure of that, when they say we do cyber, if you're not sure about that, find out. Because a lot of managed service providers, IT service providers say, yeah, we do cyber, and they really don't. They put a couple things in place and they say you're secure. I come up against it all the time. We have people that come to us all the time because they've lost faith, they've lost trust, they've lost confidence in their IT provider. And when I say to them, what are you doing for cyber? I get the same answer almost every time: we're not sure. And I'll say, well, have you discussed it with your current provider? Yeah, we've discussed it, but they say, oh, don't worry about it. We've got antivirus installed and we've got a few things in place. That's not a good enough answer. You have to be accountable as the owner or leader or decision maker in your business. You have to be accountable. Nobody's going to be accountable for you. And accountability means asking the right people the right questions, and it starts with asking yourself the right question, asking your team of leaders around you or people you rely on those questions, and then saying, hey, you know what? Let's focus some energy and focus some time on this, and let's make sure that we are not going to be one of those stories, one of those people that is where people are telling stories about a breach. This is why I'm doing this. This is why I'm sharing this with you. If you have in-house IT, it's no different. It's actually even worse. In-house IT, full-time IT that's not outsourced, I have nothing against them. I started out as one of them, but let me tell you the truth about in-house IT. They're lazy and they're complacent. They're not bad people, but they're lazy and they're complacent because they can be. At least if you have a third-party outsourced IT firm, there is some level where they have to have a higher standard because you'll fire them. In-house IT, forget it. If you have in-house IT, you could be a small accounting firm, or you could be a doctor's office, or you could be a law firm, and maybe you have 5 people, maybe your firm has 10, 15, 20 in-house IT. You must hire a third party to come in and do an IT audit, a cyber assessment, and give you a third-party assessment of what the current state is, what the risks are. Get that risk assessment. It doesn't mean that your existing IT staff has to feel like there's something that they're being micromanaged. It's the smartest thing you could do. It's the smartest thing that they should want you to do it, because you want to have eyes wide open. You want to know all your risks. You want to be aware of all your risks. If you don't know what your risks are, then how can you solve for them? How can you protect your revenue? How can you protect your business? How could you protect your clients? How can you plan? How can you strategize if you don't know where your weaknesses are, where your threats are? So if you have in-house IT, I strongly advise having a third party come in, just do an assessment. They'll deliver all the results. They'll deliver to you a scope of work telling you what should be done, what could be resolved, what should be in place. This is what you do. And then you put a budget in place and you decide to solve the problems. What you don't do is put your head in the sand and think it's not going to happen to me. It's going to happen to you. Every single firm out there, 100% guaranteed, take this to the bank. This is the only bet that you can guarantee you're going to 100% win. Every firm will have an attempted breach. The question is, when that breach is happening, can the hackers get in? And when they get in, what are they going to face? Is there going to be a line of people standing there with machine guns ready to fight them back? Or are they just going to walk right in the front door, take your data, encrypt everything, hold you hostage, and shut your business down? You have the power to choose that outcome, okay? That's also 100% certain. So it's 100% certain that you're going to have an attempted breach. Guarantee. It's happening every day, you just don't realize it. there's a high degree of certainty in the 90 percentile that somebody's going to get through, mostly through social engineering, possibly a few other ways, but usually it's social engineering. And when they get through, you have complete control over everything you have in place to minimize that impact, contain it, shut it down, respond and react, have no damage, and not be a story like this CDK Global. So this is my message to you. We do provide all these services. The first and most important service that we provide is education, information, and sharing this valuable information with you. Our core services are cybersecurity, IT services, cloud services, and everything that goes along with that. Our role is to make sure that you're safe, secure, productive, and that you're able to service your business and you're able to be successful. So I hope this video was helpful. Hope it inspired you to think, hope it motivated you to take action. I want to wish you well, and I want to absolutely encourage you to do everything you possibly can to make the choice to not be a victim. Thanks for watching.